Hi, this is Bug from messengercomic.com bringing you another video on how I make Follower, and this one's about the inking process. There's 4 main steps to the process. Some of them come before inking the page and some are part of it. We start by scripting the comic, then we draw thumbnails, then we sketch the page, and then lastly comes the ink itself. Scripting happens way in advance. Delayed and I sit down and plan what's going to happen in the next part of the story, and then he writes the draft of a script, and then we both look at it together and determine whether it will work as a comic or not. And it's a long process. The script for Chapter 2 was done probably 6 months before we started drawing it, and it's now coming up on probably close to a year since I've looked at this section of the script. So it's a long, involved thing. The second part of this process includes thumbnailing. I've printed up a bunch of sheets for myself with page-sized thumbnails so I can plan out the entire book at one time. This way we can both sit down and look at, what's happening in the comic and make sure that it really matches up to our vision for the script and how it's going to look as a final product. But each page gets planned out just with little stick figures and tiny sketches, just to have an idea of how the panels will flow and how the pages will work together. But there's lots of little notes and ideas and things to remember for later, so this is really a roadmap for me when I'm drawing out the comic, to be able to check and see what we had planned and make sure that it fits. I use these as a guide to actually, in Manga Studio, plan out all of the pages together at once. I will draw out all of the panels and then move on to the next step, which includes sketching, which I haven't shown in this video because I did this so long ago and I'm coming back to finish the page now. But it's those little blue rough figures that you see in the background here. They're not much more complicated than stick figures, and it's really just planning for me to come back. They're placeholders. They're not important. No, they're important, but they aren't part of the final product. Inking itself, I have purchased some of the Friendin brushes for Manga Studio, which are so awesome. And that's where, a few of my Patreon dollars have gone, so thank you for your continued support, because it helps me be able to update my tools this way. But they have a really natural feel, which is nice, just because I've done so much work with Messenger doing a lot of the inking with brushes or by hand, and this has a much more similar feel, so it's really nice for me to be able to work that way. All of my ink for Follower is done on vector layers, which makes it really convenient to be able to erase things out and delete things and resize things and keep it looking very crisp and neat. I used to use Fire Alpaca for inking, and I inked about half of the first chapter that way, which is a free program, and you should give it a try if you're interested in doing this sort of thing. But there's so many software options out there now that Manga Studio is becoming one of my favorites for doing illustration, and even though I still color using Photoshop, there's a possibility that I might start doing that in other software too. Try things out, experiment. It's part of the whole process, and it's how you learn. It's how I've learned so much. A lot of these inks look incomplete or rough because I do clean them up as I'm coloring usually. Backgrounds are mostly painted in as I'm coloring. I like for them to kind of recede into the background because they are backgrounds, and if they're too heavily inked, I feel like they distract from the characters too much. So I like to give them kind of a painterly treatment and just do them with colors and minimal outlines. Here I'm going back to refer to the script in Google Docs and just make sure that everything's, looking correct, and the characters are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and making sure that if there's dialogue that I'm leaving a place for it, and that I'm aware that it's going to be there later on, even though I don't add the speech balloons until much, much, much later in the process, like after the coloring is all done. So that's always important to check. But one of my favorite features of Mega Studio is the fact that you can make panels, and each panel is kind of treated as its own little collection of layers in a folder. So that red border that you see around the edge is showing me what is going to be cropped off when I move on to the next panel, which is nice because you can just draw like these really free-flowing things and move things around and know where the edge of that's going to be. So you'll see when I change over that it will clip off the edges, or maybe not, but you get the general idea. You'll see it later. So one of the tricks that I've picked up is using vector layers. There's a setting that enables you to very quickly erase like hanging lines, which has really helped improve my whole process and speed things up by a ton. Just because that's how I learned to draw, was to just make shapes and overlap things and erase out the parts that you don't need. And I don't know that it's necessarily like the correct way to do it or the best way to do it, but it's how I learned. And again, like using the friend and brushes for this, they are super, super helpful tricks, and it feels much more natural to me. It feels similar to how I would draw on paper, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it really does make a difference in helping me to be more efficient and just do better artwork. And here again you see in this panel that they get only the most minimal of backgrounds. So here's the final page, and you can see how everything is neatly clipped down to its own panel, and things overlap, and it's just very simple and quick. So thanks for watching, and here's the music that I used in this video, mostly from Incompetech. And if you have any suggestions for artists that might not mind if I use their music in my videos, let me know. I am always looking for things of that nature. And here's a few links for you as well. Messenger, which is where the Chios originated, and it's my first webcomic. Follower, which is the comic this page is from. And my Patreon, which helps enable me to keep making comics and keep making these videos. Thanks for watching.